Hey guys, what's up? My name is Aaron Shu. I am a content creator from Zimbabwe and I love making videos talking about disability, raising disability awareness. And I always say that one of my mottos is to demystify disabilities one video at a time. I believe that it is something that is important. You can see I'm in a wheelchair and I've been pretty much disabled since the time I was born. I've never known anything else. I've always been a wheelchair user, so I'm sure we can pretty much agree that I do know one or two things about being disabled. I thought it would be a good thing for me to talk about some things that I wish the general public out there understood a little bit more about people with disabilities or disabilities in general. I believe it is something that is important as it will enable us to coexist together very well and in a harmonious way. The first thing that I would like to point out that I wish a lot of people understood is that no matter how many people you know we have a disability or a similar disability, no two individuals are the same. People react differently to even the same disability. So, for example, I may have the same disability as your cousin, but the way that our bodies respond to that disability is entirely different. So, disabilities are very diverse. We have got visible and invisible disabilities. It also comes in many different forms and shapes, and there are intellectual disabilities, there are sensory disabilities, there are health related disabilities, there are mental disabilities, you name it. And the earlier that we understand that people are different, the better it will be for everyone. So even if people that you may know may have the same kind of disability, never make the assumption that you understand everything about their disability. It's always different. So it's always best to ask questions. You could have been working with people with disabilities for many different years. You may have a lot of experience in that sector or whatever, but at the end of the day, you cannot and will not know more about that disability than the person who actually has that disability. They understand more about how it functions, how it affects their body, how it affects their movements or their daily lifestyle. So just bear that in mind. Don't generalize. Second thing that I wish people understood is that even though someone has a disability, they still deserve dignity and respect, just like any other person or individual in this world. Because at the end of the day, we should be seeing the person first before we see their disability. So that is why we also advocate for like person first kind of language instead of saying a disabled person. And I know that I'm guilty of this because it's shorter and it's just something that I'm used to. I'm just used to saying disabled people, but that shouldn't be how we address people with disabilities. It's always the person first before you see or talk about their disability. And the reason why it's important to respect them is because we are all equal. The fact that I can't walk doesn't mean that somebody who does is better than I am, or because I can't walk, I am more special than the person who can. No, we are all equal. We are all on the same footing. Or, I mean, we may not be on the same footing, but at the end of the day, we all deserve to be respected and treated with dignity. Avoid patronizing attitudes as well. Like, for example, isn't the little things like talking down to someone with a disability because you assume that they can't reason or they are not intellectual enough to understand complicated subjects or whatever. Just treat them like you would treat any other regular person. You don't need to feel pity or sorry for me all the time. You see me like, oh, how are you? And then you change your voice and you try to baby me. No, it's not like that. I'm a very much capable individual who is just as competent as you are, as long as you abide by the golden rule of disability, which is to see the person first before you see their disability, then everything will be well. Let's talk about independence and capability. There is a tendency, as unfortunate as it may be, of regarding every person with a disability as someone who is incapable of taking care of themselves or contributing meaningfully to the society or the workforce or the community at large. which is completely wrong and biased. Don't focus on someone's limitations. Yes, of course, the moment you look at me, the first thing you'll notice is that this guy has got a physical disability. It's very visible and it's very obvious, and also my wheelchair makes it pretty obvious. But it should end there. This is just a mobility device. The only thing that it does is take me from one point to another, from point A to point B. It's not a direct reflection of my capabilities, it's just a mode of transport, so to speak. Some people also make the assumption that once somebody has a disability, then they cannot be independent. There are so many people, millions of people out there who just think that every disabled person cannot be independent. They can't take care of themselves, they can't live by themselves, they can't go to work, or something like that. That is not the case. There are a lot of assistive devices that exist these days. For example, my wheelchair. Of course, I can't push myself, I can't propel myself in a manual wheelchair, and that is why I use an electric wheelchair to enable myself to move from one point to another, and that does actually make me independent. So yes, while there are people with disabilities who may need the assistance of caregivers for certain things, or every now and again, or even 24/7, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single person with a disability also requires the services of or the assistance of a caregiver. Some people are disabled, yes, but they live completely independent. They can do everything by themselves, unassisted, from household chores like cleaning, cooking, doing their laundry, grocery shopping. They run errands by themselves. They are completely able of taking care of themselves. So do not make the assumption that just because someone with physical disability, they are incapable of being independent or taking care of themselves. That's not how we roll. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is something that is very big in the disabled community. If you talk to anyone who has a disability, they will tell you that they have experienced this at one point or another, and that is having communication problems with especially able bodied people. I know that a lot of people sometimes like assisting people with disabilities, and I'll give an example of myself. There are times when I'm sitting by the sun, I'm soaking in a little bit of sun, and someone will see me from across the street, and they'll assume, oh, somebody left him there, you must be burning in the sun. Let me go and move him maybe to somewhere like under a tree shade or something like that. And then they come, sometimes they don't even say hi, or they do say hi, but then they don't communicate anything about how they want to assist you. They just start pushing you. And sometimes your wheelchair is locked, or it's not a manual wheelchair, or so many things that needs to be discussed first. Maybe you don't even want to be moved from a particular point. You are okay where you are. So I always urge people to communicate with people with disabilities. Unless we have been explicitly told that they are incapable of communicating with you, which is very rare, just ask the question, come up, say hi, and ask if I'm okay or if I need assistance to be moved maybe to a safer or to a cooler shade or anything, rather than just make assumption. And if I do agree to let you help me, then the next best thing to ask is to listen to the best way of helping me. I'll let you know, okay, you can help me with this, you can help me with that, don't push my wheelchair this way, or that is very important, because once you start assisting someone, especially someone who is using an assistive device, you may actually end up damaging their equipment without actually knowing that's what you are doing, and these things are very expensive. So it's always very good to communicate first so that we avoid those unnecessary risks. You can also injure the person. I know some people who just come and try to just lift you without even communicating with you. Like, what are you doing? Talk to me first. Ask me, can I lift you? Do you need to be lifted? Maybe sometimes I can actually transfer myself. So it's always important to have those conversations. And also, on the subject of communication, please be very comfortable with making jokes around disabled people. It's okay to say to someone who is blind or who is visually impaired, see you tomorrow. It's just figurative speech. That's everyday language. That's how we speak to each other. It's okay to say to me, do you like going for a walk? Even though I'm not physically walking, maybe I just like rolling around in my wheelchair. There's no need to say, oh, do you like going out and rolling around in your wheelchair? No, just call it going for a walk. It's okay. It's okay. Trust me. The more you overthink these things, then the more awkward they become. And we don't want that at the end of the day. One of the biggest challenges that I've encountered as a physically disabled person is inaccessibility. Let me tell you, this is a huge problem, particularly for people like me who come from third world countries like Africa, in my case, Zimbabwe. It's a very inaccessible country. The infrastructure is not really built with people with disabilities in mind. And I am talking about inaccessibility in all kinds of places like the workplace, in public spaces, and even digital platforms as well. The more that the world is inaccessible, the more that we exclude a large portion of the world population. There is a huge population of people out there with physical disabilities or even invisible intellectual mental disabilities, you name it. The moment that we do not consider those people when we are building this kind of places, then we are excluding a whole group of people that we shouldn't be excluding in the first place. Whenever I have to go somewhere, people think I'm being extra, but I'm always forced to ask questions like, is your door wide enough? Are there steps to the entrance? Can a wheelchair fit in there? And it's just very exhausting at the end of the day. And you also seem like someone who's very naggy. Somebody invites you to a party and you want to know all this information because sometimes it's very important because you need to know what kind of wheelchair to bring there. You need to know what to expect. Are you going to need people to you over a flight of stairs or a couple of stairs? Are you going to use a manual wheelchair or an electric wheelchair? Are you even going to be able to fit your wheelchair through the door? Because the world is just not built with people with disabilities in mind, which is really sad because it makes the disabled community miss out on a lot of experiences in life for something that could easily be resolved by ensuring, especially, that all public spaces are accessible. Even in the workplace, sometimes all it takes is just engaging the individual with accessibility needs and asking them, what do you need to make the space more accessible for you? The other big challenge that is faced by people with disabilities that I wish people understood is misconceptions and assumptions and stereotyping. It's a big no. Please never make an assumption about what you think someone with a disability can or cannot do. Always ask if you are unsure. It's always good to ask that particular individual if you need some kind of clarity. There are just way too many assumptions and misconceptions and stereotypes out there about people with disabilities. Number one is that if someone is a disability, especially a physical disability, then it also implies that they have a mental or intellectual disability. Sometimes it may be true, but more often than not, that's not the case. And then there are people who also think that disabled people are not interested in romantic relationships or they are incapable of having their own families or being intimate with their partners or having babies or taking care of children. Oh, no. You need to open your eyes to the world, hey? There are so many parents that I know who have children and they have disabilities and they are very much capable of taking care, very good care of their children at that. And then there are assumptions that if someone is a disability, then they cannot contribute meaningfully to society or be gainfully employed or have good careers. I don't even know why we are still thinking that way. It's 2024, people. Things are changing. The danger with these assumptions is that they continue to perpetuate lies about people with disabilities, which in turn will cause the society to segregate them more and discriminate against them, all because of misconceptions that are not true at all. No, please, no to assumptions. Let's find out the correct information. Let's learn what we need to learn. And let's also unlearn old misconceptions and stereotypes that just need to go into the trash, honestly. I also wish people understood that there are a lot of mental health challenges that come with a disability. It can be very emotionally draining and exhausting. There are some dark moments and there are some dark times, and it takes a lot of effort and a support system to pull you out of that sad or bad place. And I wish the public understood this more. People with disabilities are prone to having a lot of anxieties, a lot of depression, a lot of stress because they are dealing particularly with a world that was not built with them in mind like at all. So it can be very taxing and draining emotionally. Sometimes your disability, especially physical disabilities or even mental disabilities, sometimes they come with a lot of health issues, and the health issues come with a lot of medical bills. So if the world understood that a little bit more and were a little bit more empathetic and compassionate towards people with disabilities because of the mental health struggles that they face, then the world would be a better place. With that said, I think it's also very important for me to highlight the importance of mental health support and services, and making sure that resources to assist with mental health challenges are available not just to persons with disabilities but also to anyone else who may need those resources or support. One other thing that also causes a lot of stress and anxiety among people with disabilities is societal attitudes. Just the things society thinks or assumes about you and the things they say about you can have a huge impact on the way that you feel about yourself or your disability. So it's also very important as a society to be very mindful of that. The next thing that I wish people understood about people with disabilities is probably one of the most important things that I will talk about in this video, and that is the importance of advocacy and having allies within the disabled community. As people with disabilities, we are very marginalized. That is not a secret. So, the more the people who join forces with us and help to amplify our voices and our message, the better it will be for everyone. And it's the very simple things that you can do. If you can talk about disabilities with your families, if you can hire people with disabilities, if you can educate people about disabilities, if you can be friends with people with disabilities, all of these things help so many things. So many things that we can do as a society. Even integrating people with disabilities into the society. Are you having a social function? Invite someone who has a disability who is in your community that you know, particularly if they are a loner, they are probably lonely and they feel very segregated against. Invite them to your functions, include them in your festivities, give them roles to perform, responsibilities to take care of. Let them play an active role in society. Allow them to be active, give them responsibilities. It also gives them that feeling of being included in society. So it's very important to have allies. You could maybe come across people who are making really mean and uneducated and ignorant jokes about someone with a disability, or like, oh yeah, of course, it's not his baby. How can he have a baby as a disability? This guy can't walk, so how can he have a baby? Educate those people and be like, no, you don't need to walk to be able to have a baby. It's the simple things, but it really does go a long way rather than joining in on making fun at the expense of the disabled community. Then at the end of the day, you just continue to perpetuate those very lies about people with disabilities, which is not cool. The last thing I want to talk about is language and labels. I know that we live in a society that loves labels. They love labeling everything because we like categorizing people into subsets that we understand. But it's important to understand that your language and your labels that you attach to individuals with disabilities should be respectful and not dehumanizing. Even the very language that we use to talk about people with disabilities or the disabled community should be inclusive, inclusive language and not offensive language. There's very outdated terms and words that we used to use in the past to describe people with disabilities. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to perpetuate those stereotypes. But you know the words I'm talking about. It's high time we let those words go and refocus on inclusive and respectful language. At the end of the day, the language that we use to talk about people with disabilities plays a pivotal role in shaping the attitudes that society has towards persons with disabilities. So there you have it, guys. Those are the things that I wish the public understood about people with disabilities so that we can coexist together. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, hit that like button, and also leave a comment below. I would love to know what you think about what I shared in this video. Do you have your own thoughts, your own ideas? I can't wait to hear from you. Drop that comment below, and also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any future updates. And if you would like to support the channel, I always say that it takes a village for me to make these videos. I have very limited finger function and use of my hands, so if I'm making content, that means I have people who are helping me with that. And for that to continue happening, of course they need some compensation. So if you can support me, please kindly go to my buy me a coffee page and buy me as many cups of coffee as you would like, and I'll channel the resources back into creating more videos like this one. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Stay blessed.